So I want to go back and watch why exactly Bryce Young went off on us. Everybody's talking about the end result, but nobody wants to talk about how we got to that result. So to understand why he went off, we got to go back to the weeks leading up to week 18. We're going to look at what switches flipped, how the Falcons game planned against Bryce Young, and how Bryce Young completely shitted on that game plan. And then we're going to talk about how the Falcons adjusted that game plan and why Jimmy Lake got fired. But without further ado, let's go and get into this video, y'all. So to make sense of what changed for the offense when Bryce took back over, we're going to make some recalls to my very first video. The first thing that I noticed when I did my own scouting for this game is that Dave Canales spread the field out for Bryce more. That way he can work the middle of the field, and that's something that he does well. The two main routes that were his bread and butter were the in cuts and the crossing routes, and he was very successful with these. This play from against the Chiefs is my favorite example. The Panthers, they come out empty and they've given Bryce 3 different options to work with. From top to bottom, if a linebacker is out there with Chuba Hubbard by himself, then they're going to throw the mandatory outside release, but since a corner is out there, we know that route is dead. The post out combination beats man coverage every single time, and in this alignment, the concept also works good against quarters because the middle hook defender has no shot in hell of matching this out route. In the bottom of the screen, Bo is a good one high beater, but you can also beat 2 high if you throw that dig with anticipation. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're coming out in a quarters look. You can already see Bryce's key in the bottom of the screen, and based off of the DB's alignment, he's probably also thinking this is cover 6. Cover 6 is also a version of quarters, but he knew he could make this throw if he could beat the safety. Bryce gets one more mental snapshot of this defense before the ball is hiked, and once he gets to snap, he checks the DB's body language to confirm what he saw pre-snap, and once he saw the look that he wanted, he knew he could throw this dig backside because there would be nobody affecting it. And in my opinion, this is an A+ throw to a D- route because David Moore, he drifts on this route. If he stays square on this in cut, he could catch this and run. He may not have the arm to consistently hit deep shots down the field, but what he is good at is throwing guys open and playing on time. The second biggest factor in his second half resurgence was his ability to create plays off schedule. I know Panthers fans get tired of the hype jokes, but being a good improviser as a shorter quarterback is good because it opens up lanes to throw that initially aren't there when you hit the top of your drop back. Whether it was Dave Canales moving the launch point for Bryce Young to find lanes to throw, or him being a good improviser naturally, him being able to play off script unlocked a lot of big plays for this offense down the stretch. A great example of this is the very first play of that what should have been a game-winning drive for the Panthers against the Eagles. We know Vic Fangio loves to split the field in half defensively and use split field coverages. So in this situation right here, they're running cover 6, and that's cover 2 to the top of the screen and cover 4 to the bottom of the screen. And as I mentioned before, cover 6 is also a version of quarters. That means they have match principles. And if you aren't familiar with the term match, it basically means instead of dropping to a spot in zone coverage, you're going to read the release of the receivers and you're going to match that route based on what they do. This defense is called to mainly shut off passing windows that would normally be there in traditional zone coverage, and it's also used to make the quarterback hold the ball longer. And we saw from the Super Bowl, if you're holding on to that ball against this front four, you're not going to have a very good day. Dave Canales calls a perfect play to beat this exact defense that they're in. The defender that Bryce Young is reading is this boundary safety. If he stays true to his assignment and doubles number 1, this skinny post is going to come wide open behind him. But if he gets depth on this skinny post, he can hit the curl. If the underneath defender gets under this curl route and both safeties follow the skinny post, the dig is going to come wide open backside. And if all else fails, you have your swing route on a check down. Where the magic starts for this play is Xavier Legette and Adam Thielen. They both have their routes disrupted at the line, thrown off the timing because these are the primary routes in the read. You compound this with the right tackle getting beat off the edge on a speed rush, even with chip help. Once he steps up into the pocket, a second green jersey flashes, and at this point he has to evade to the left. He gets his eyes downfield to look for a receiver while breaking a sack attempt. He locates Xavier Legette and he was able to set up and throw, and this ball was layer perfectly over the defender. And for extra credit, instead of leading him to the sideline, he throws it behind Xavier. That way he can get a few more yards out of this catch. What honestly would have been a safety or a throwaway for most quarterbacks in the league, Bryce Young made this a 30-yard completion just by being a good improviser. And while I'm still holding firm on my opinion that Bryce Young has not fully arrived as a quarterback yet, he is also making plays like this on a week-to-week basis during the second half of the season that gives the Panthers fans hope. And that's why they're talking crazy on Twitter. Him buying time to throw isn't just limited to him being a good improviser. It's also knowing how to navigate a pocket when you're getting blitzed. Being able to adjust the protection while having subtle pocket movements as you're getting blitzed is why he had 5 touchdowns just to 1 interception against the blitz this year. And this pitch and catch in week 17 to Jalen Coker is a great example of this right here. Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded coach who is known to light you up in many different ways. In this example, the Buccaneers are running a 6-man blitz behind man coverage where the safety and the linebacker add into the pass rush. Even in this still shot right here, you can see Bryce Young is about to tell the running back to flank him on his left to set the protection. And he is properly adjusting the protection in order to hit this dig. When we roll this clip, you see the safety walking down, and that prompts Bryce to adjust his protection. And once he gets the running back on his side, he's going to adjust the slide. And then you see the subtle movement in the pocket to drift away from pressure and set up the throw and hit him right in the numbers. That's an A+ throw. So to get a sense of the game plan, I looked at our stats defensively as well as the passing chart to figure out how we were trying to stop Bryce Young. And taking into account what we just learned, that he was very good at work in the middle of the field, you see that a lot of his throws were outside of the numbers. I also want to add that the Atlanta Falcons have a 25% blitz rate on dropbacks, which is the bottom half of the league. But when you look at this Week 18 game, they blitzed nearly 30% on dropbacks. And that may not sound like a huge jump, but when we're talking about averages and a single game sample size, that is a big jump. And so I took 3 pillars from this possible game plan, and that's to blitz frequently, no throws over the middle, and continue to play man coverage, because frankly, we don't think your receivers can beat us. And this game plan did not go well at all. And I want to talk about how the blitzing aspect of this game plan changed the entire game. On one drive alone in the first quarter, we blitzed Bryce Young 4 out of the 11 total times that we blitzed that game. So that means from the second quarter all the way to overtime, we only blitzed Bryce Young 7 times. And get this, of those 7 blitzes, Bryce Young scored on 4 of those plays. So not only did Bryce Young scare Jimmy Lake off of his initial game plan, when he tried to test the waters again by blitzing, he torched him for it. And on my coaching journey, I've learned a lot about game planning and how it works. Teams are almost never going to come out and show you what they've shown on film. There's always going to be unscouted looks when you're starting out. And as a coordinator, it's your job to understand that and have the adjustments ready and be ready for that initial counterpunch anyways. And what I've also learned is that if your initial game plan isn't working, you make your adjustments. And if your adjustments aren't working, you're going to get back to what you know best. And what you know best is what you've been putting on film all season. And as you can see, as that game progressed, you could see that our corners eventually, they were back at their normal 9 to 10 yard depth, and I was losing my mind. So in Jimmy Lake's case, not only did your initial game plan work, your adjustments didn't work, and you got back to the trash defense that got you fired. And once Jimmy Lake got back to calling things that Bryce saw on film, we were just at his mercy. And our plan defensively flipped on its head. We went from being an aggressive defense against him initially to being ultra conservative. We went back to playing super far off the line. We went back to having just a 4-man rush, sometimes 3. And to make it worse, Bryce Young was playing against this same defense in practice. And you couple this with an historically bad pass rush, it just became a good on good period in practice for Bryce Young. And that's exactly what he made it look like. He made it look just like practice. And if you're wondering why Panthers fans are parading this win and just riding their high horses, it's because our defensive coordinator thoroughly got his ass whooped. And if you watch the Commanders game from the week before, you can see the same exact thing happen, where he got scared off of his game plan, and at some point he was just running the same things that everybody saw on film. And I'm very grateful that Bryce Young did this to us, because we needed him gone. Look, I'm never glad that we lose a game, but in some ways, I'm glad that Bryce did this to us because it made us get rid of Jimmy Lake. Once again, do I think that game is a coming out party for Bryce? No, not necessarily. Once again, I'm keeping my opinion that he needs to show us he can do this consistently, because after all, if you take away the Arizona and the Atlanta game, he was pretty much an average quarterback. And that's not bad considering how bad Bryce looked before he got benched, whether it was in his control or not. I've been on record for saying I'll admit Bryce has arrived when he's doing this under expectations, because you could argue when he came off the bench he had no expectations to win anything meaningful, and the Panthers have realistic dreams of competing for this division. So if he's able to do this while competing for a division title, I will admit he solidified himself in this league. But as of right now, I think it's still to be determined, but he's trending in the right direction. But that's it for me, y'all. If y'all did enjoy this video, because I did enjoy making it, like and subscribe for more. I will be uploading more Falcons content in the future. And with that being said, I'll see you guys later in the next video. Goodbye.